Welcome to another interview with successful clients within our program. Today we're talking with Danny Lirtzman and his son, Scotty Lirtzman. And I'm going to tell you a bit about them. Scotty came in the program several months back, and he's noticed some tremendous changes both in his performance on the court and his mindset off the court. And I know his dad has really benefited from his short time in the program already. And I look forward to talking more with them and look forward to them sharing their story as well. So fellas, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Of course. So first, I want to get started off. Scotty, what was your mindset like before you joined the program?
So before I joined the program, I would say I had like a good motivational mindset. Like I would think about things, I would motivate myself, but I didn't really see the change of breaking things down like we did. Like over the past couple calls, we've broken down how to like create a better mindset, like fix your mindset, like think of things at a deeper level. Like I said, it helped me a lot. It contributed to school, just life in general, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And Scotty, I love one of the things about you when first coming into the program. You're a really cerebral player from what I can tell. You think the game really well and you're very intelligent off the court too. And I know for a player like yourself, I'd love for you to speak towards that, right? I know you like thinking. How did this program really simplify your mindset and help you go out on the court with more peace of mind?
So I would say like mostly about getting 1% better in the stuff we talked about on the call. There's one call where we broke down the percentages of getting better. Like we showed over the 6 months, we broke it down into each month and how many calls we had and what we studied during those calls. So it showed like what it simplified it down. Like you didn't have to think as much. Like I wasn't as stressed, wasn't as overwhelmed. I knew what I needed to put in work today, what I would do the next day. And the thing that really helped me the most is the calendar. Last night, I actually created a calendar and I've been using it since last night.
That's awesome. And Danny, I know before we got started, you were telling me a bit about some of the calls that you were going through. And last night we talked about the calendar and really being able to systematize things. And I know players don't necessarily have as much organizational skills as professionals, but something like this, I'm sure it's made a big difference, even though Scotty's just applied it right now.
I think from my perspective as a parent, one of the things that's truly unique about this program is the way the pillars, the concepts that you're teaching overlap from the basketball court to the dinner table to the school to life in general. And I mentioned to you a bit before how I had a chance to go over some of the calls earlier today. I usually, in general, I like to keep up on a week-to-week basis, stay current, because he'll show up after every call wanting to discuss what went on, which is just incredible. And the things that he is talking about, yes, while there's a lot of basketball, the backbone of this is a basketball program, but the overlap into the concepts, I think you call them fundamental skills as a word you like to use. And that he'll come out to the dinner table and we're talking about things that are not taught in school. For example, the class that was last night, this calendar, I'm listening as a 49-year-old adult saying, wow, like these things were never taught to me, and if I would have had this at an earlier point in my life. And I find that when I listen to a lot of the calls, yes, this program was designed for him, clearly. But as a parent, I'm always finding like, wow, how does this relate to my life? And I think that's so like one of the truly unique things about this is that all of the concepts are applicable to anything. And from a basketball standpoint, to go back to your first question just a minute or two ago, I think one of the main things that I've noticed is that in any sort of youth basketball program or high school or college, whatnot, there's so many things, distractions. There's so many people chirping in your ear about this should be done this way, this should be done that way. And what's really been taught in your program is none of those things really matter. It's how you as a player, what are you doing? None of that other stuff matters. I hope I wasn't very clear about that, but that's kind of, that's what I've really seen his growth. He always had the talent. I'm just going out and playing. And that's been amazing to see.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think about it this way, Danny. You say or I say this, it's not necessarily what you don't know that could trip you up. It's what you don't know that you don't know. And there's so many voices within the varsity basketball landscape of players who are parents or coaches or whoever it may be who are giving advice, and they haven't necessarily been to where it is that you want to get to. How is this program giving you the tools to be able to cut through all of that noise as a parent?
Good question. As I mentioned before, as a parent, there's people chirping in your ear. You know what I mean? Is this the right program for my kid? Is he playing in the right spot? Should we be, worried about their record versus how he's developing as an individual? Like, what is the truly best way for him to excel as a player? And I think probably all parents struggle with that when their son, or daughter is in a competitive landscape, trying to grow in the arena of basketball. And this has really clarified a lot of, like, I don't want to call it nonsense, but it's like you can tune out a lot of this stuff, and we're going to focus on what's at hand instead of all the people and all the thoughts and distractions. It might have been in the call last night. You used this harmony balance kind of equate, which there's so much wisdom in every, like, I often chuckle. I'm like, how was Trey only, how old are you?
29.
Like sometimes I feel like I'm like listening to a professor. And that's no, I'm like, wow, this is really, and I think you've made it where we're looking at the game more in terms of that harmony, as opposed to like all of this other things that are, taking away and eating it, goodness of it. So
It's also about intelligence, like the film study that we did. Like, I've never thought of film that way. How you broke down some of my film, it's really helped me a lot. The way you've taught me to do this, like with simple little details that can have a big effect on my game. And also the stuff about you need to be good at two things. You could shoot threes from the corner and be a D1 player. You just have to be really good at that. Like, you have to focus on your strengths and like try to make those your best things.
Yeah, I think that's great, Scotty. You bring up a great point, because I've heard maybe some players I'm speaking to or parents I talk to, and they're like, how are you going to be able to help me if you're not in person, right? How are you going to be able to help me if you don't have so much film? Maybe talk to that, Scotty. You haven't sent in a boatload of film, but it's been enough to be able to give you that feedback. I think, Danny, both you and Scotty can talk about that, because I think that has allowed you to see a tremendous amount of growth in that little bit of film study we did.
It's funny, I was just going to talk about that film. I mean, when we went into this, you meet someone on the internet, we have an interview, a conversation, you're obviously a little bit, the general response is to be somewhat skeptical, no matter how great it looks on the surface. And that's just with anyone you would meet on the internet. And it didn't take very long for me to realize that this was not going to be one of those cases where we bought into something where we were, I don't want to use the word scam, but there's a lot of scams on the internet. And, it's just certainly when it pertains to your kids and their growth. So that has just been an incredible thing to witness the backbone of this program. Now, speaking towards the film, I think we sent on, because we started, at the end of kind of last year's AAU season, and we sent in some clip, some film, probably, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes worth of film, call it that. And I didn't really know what to expect, Scotty, like what we were going to get back. Right? You said send in film, so we sent in film. And within 24 hours, I don't even think it was that. It was the most elaborate, detailed breakdown of every play, every angle, what you could do here, or how the spacing could work, concepts that had never really been presented to Scotty before. And in terms of, seeing it click immediately, the growth, would you say, from day one of film? And I remember, I think I sent you a note. I was like, thank you for that quick response. And this is incredible. Because I think it was 35 minutes of, 4 minutes worth of game film broken down.
Yeah.
And so when you want to talk about, the commitment you have to your kids, like I learned real quickly, this was not some scam. Hey, come off the rope, come off the pitch and we'll go to the basket type situation. This was a high level break.
Additionally, like the finance part of it, and we talked about what you, in the grand scheme of things, when you make it to the next level, like what you're going to make, like how can you invest your money, double your money. And also, like, when you look at your favorite college coach, it might not be the perfect fit for you. That really took a toll on me, because I thought of, like, colleges that I wanted to go to. But then you have to break it down at a deeper level and say, does this really fit my needs? Like, you could look up a point guard at Michigan or at Duke and say, do I play like this person? Is this person like me?
Yeah, that's huge. Like, Scotty, you make a great point there, because I think a lot of players, they come into the college recruiting process of thinking like, I want to go to this school and I want to go to that school. And I was guilty of that too. And it's nothing wrong with wanting to go to a particular school. But Scotty, I'd love to hear from you, man. How has your perspective changed looking at colleges now from hey, I want to go to a place where I'm wanted, rather than just going to a place where there's a famous name on a jersey?
Like, I realized if you look at different players, like say, I love Michigan because my dad went there. And you look at point guards like Trey Mourning last year, LJ Casey, new one, Elliot Cadeau. You have to see how you play like that, if you play like that. In that feedback of just saying, that changed my whole world. I never thought of that. In all the topics we covered, I've never thought of it that way, as you stated, which made it very like professional and like deep, I would say.
Yeah, and about that, I think what you described there is like a click. I like calling them clicks. And when it just changes, the light switch went off, right? So for you, Scotty, can you describe a game, let's say, where you notice, hey, I'm actually playing differently because of something I learned in the program?
Okay, so when we went to South Carolina for Junior 3SB finals. It was the last couple games of the season. And so before every single game, I think we played a total of 5 games, right?
Six.
Six. And I would journal every time before the game, saying what I want to do. Like, say, I'm going to go to kill mode. Here are my goals. Here's what I would not like to do. Here's what I want to achieve. And that helped me so much. Like, the changes in averages for that tournament based off other tournaments. Like, there's a huge change. I always thought of it as not like this. We could go into the game like a little nervous, but then after I did the journaling, I was like, oh, it's not that hard. I can just go into kill mode and then do that.
Yeah. And Danny, I want to hear you talk about that too. Like, as a father who's familiar with basketball, has played his own basketball, how is it watching Scotty really flip that switch and show up on the court more confident?
Oh, I mean, I think the journaling, I mean, that was one of the first things that these core concepts that he really gravitated towards. And I would see him, and he got to sit one of the games like 8:30 game. He's up there at 6:30 in the hotel room getting ready. And I think they have this other phrase, focus on the inputs, not the outputs. And that kind of goes into the journaling. And what this program has done is giving him, like, you put in the work, your skills are all there. We just need to unlock that. Talking about inputs to outputs, he was able to tap into those inputs instead of worrying like, hey, why am I not scoring this, or why am I not doing this? The journaling and all of these concepts, he knows he's ready to go. And when he gets out there, it's like, honestly, it's like a different player. And I think his coaches saw that, his teammates saw that, and it's now carried over into his next season where he's, kind of leading his team, as opposed to just kind of trotting along, as another player on the team. So, which is really cool to see.
Furthermore, I want to, like, a scenario. So last year, like a year and a half ago, maybe like before this program, no, like a year and a half ago, I wasn't at the level I am because I'm in 8th grade. Like, I would go to workouts with varsity players. Before the program, I could just go in the workout and like do this, do that. But now it's like a big difference. Like, working out with older guys, like, you see the changes. Like, even before workouts, I'll journal about what I want to do and stuff, which has changed. Before this, I never would have thought, oh, I'm middle school working out with these, competing at the same level, these varsity guys. And I just want to say, before this, I didn't really have the mindset.
He had the skills.
Yeah, but
not to go bang with, guys who are 4 years older and basically, he's going toe to toe with these guys where the trainers kind of having to get on the older guys, say, hey, you're getting whooped by middle school, which is like, for me as a parent, you're like, wow, this is, something new. So
yeah,
that's been great. But I would like to also touch about, just because I know one of the big things for me as a parent was obviously the basketball first, but all of these other concepts. And that to me has been, whether it was the calendar, whether it's finances, whether it's mindset, being a good, all of these things that were never taught to me, and I've told my wife, I'm like, the things that are being taught in here are not things that we are getting in school. We can call it basketball or not. And to me, that is the real, like, that's what I was looking for on top of basketball. And you've delivered 110%, for any of those concerns, which has just been, it's really been far, far exceeding my expectations. You just got yours by, we're only a couple months into this, so I can't wait what gets unlocked, in the next months.
Thank you for that. I really do appreciate that. It's a joy to be able to see that click and then really have, I say this as a business owner, my most important metric is client success. If you all aren't successful, I'm not successful. And the more that I can see success in you all and really just give you all the tools that you need to thrive, the better. Because it goes without saying, Scotty, you're going to, God willing, live a lot longer than your dad and I, right? And we need to give you the tools to be able to run with that on and off the court for years and years and years to come. So I think that's awesome. Let me ask you this. What's one thing for the both of you that you wish you'd known before starting this program?
I have a couple things. Film study, journaling, finances, breaking down the next level, like what's best for you, what isn't, and mostly about just life in general, what to do in what scenario. Like, if there's someone choking in your ear, what to do.
I love that. Danny?
I never looked at basketball, even though I played myself, kind of from this perspective, and I think there's probably a majority of players that probably might be very successful, but that have never had this perspective of looking at the game this way, how it relates to them, how it relates off the court, so I kind of look back as a parent and say, wow, like, I'm not sure I was doing things properly potential over the last 6 years. And he's only 13, but the last 6 years of his career. And, I'm so grateful that we're here now. I'm like, wow, the things that he is learning have completely changed. The play on the court is kind of thoughtfulness off the court in any arena. And my perspective as a parent, it might have been totally wrong. So I wish I could have had that perspective sooner. And that's the only way I could see it.
You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. And there's one other thing I want to touch on too, because I know I've been talking a lot about life and all the off the court stuff. But as I mentioned, I rewatched a couple of the calls that I missed from this week, and I love watching them. And there is also this backbone of basketball component. Like, I don't want to overlook, we talked about the fact that you're talking about we're building systems on to track, statistics, to track like all of these things to get the most out of the player. Like, I don't want to cite that or overlook that at all, because I'm drawing a blank on the name. The first thing we fill out when we get to the program is the
Performance roadmap.
Right, the performance roadmap, sorry. And it's been a long day of work.
It's okay.
And that kind of set the tone. It was a series of 40 questions, maybe, something like that, where immediately it got him to think of basketball in a way he had never thought it before. What are you looking to get out of this? It wasn't just how many, yes, it was, what would your numbers like to be, but like deeper questions of like, where do you want the game to take you? How are you going to get there? And that, from day one, that sets accountability to like, this is why we're here, right? Yep. To kind of focus on these goals. And so I think that spills over kind of in, you're always referencing that in all of in the sessions, right?
Yeah.
Going back to that. Yeah. So it's been really cool.
Awesome. And Scotty, for you, man, what's something you're proud of right now that you couldn't have said about yourself 3 months ago?
I would say my entire mindset, but breaking it down into film, most importantly, journaling and taking the stress off your shoulders, like doing a calendar, like little things that can have a big impact on everything. And could you repeat the question again so I could add more stuff?
Sure. I said, what's something that you're proud of yourself for now that you couldn't say 3 months ago, let's say?
That I could think of things at a much deeper level without having any worries.
I think that kind of nails it. I mean, you make this program, you train them to do things in a repeatable way, right? That's one of your big things, whether it's, through a calendar, through the work, and I'm going to use the word less is more, but you have a different catchphrase where it's making the most out of, I think in the call last night, you were talking about you can go to the gym for 2 hours. That's great. But like, what are you getting out of that time?
Like quality over quantity.
Exactly. And based off of the quality, man, I know you talked about averages a bit when you're at that camp in South Carolina. How have your averages improved in our time together?
So we're at the tournament out there. My averages improved like by a significant amount. Usually before I would get rebounds, but I wouldn't go kill and go just get the ball from people. Or like I would say that. Like I would get the rebound, look at the open floor, see the court, and then see where is my shot available, is it not? Like looking for my shot as it pertains to kill them up.
Yeah, so that hunger, that desire is out there.
Yeah,
it's really
it increased so much before. Even in workouts, what I do, in a team practice, it just increased so much based off of the lessons that you've taught.
Sorry, I didn't cut you off, Scott. Go ahead.
So I said, from all the stuff that he's taught between the lessons, it all complies into one thing that helped me a lot.
Yeah, that's great.
With respect to your last question, just about average, right? I think it's really hard for a kid to kind of make the leap. You know what I'm saying? If they're a 7 points a game guy, even though everybody in the gym knows that they're capable of, but there's a certain confidence that they have in order to take that leap. And you've laid it out for them. You say, hey, the only way you want to average, whatever you want to average, get to the next level. Pure math says that you can't do that on 4 shots a game. And I'm not saying go out, your theory is not go out and chuck. But when you break it down like that and show these kids how close they are, they think they're, miles and miles away to where they want to be. And it's really not, I think at one point you said, hey, we're talking about simplifying the game. Or think about your finishes at the rim. If you got 6 chances where you're at the rim in a game and you're missing 3 of them, right? You're only 50% there. If you bump that up just on those alone, what are the simple things that you can work on to get there? I think you were talking about, it was a call last week. It's not everyone needs this crazy bag. You were talking about who had 5 and 5. You were talking about in the call last week.
Derek Lively.
Derek Lively, yeah.
That there's so many different ways to be effective and get there, without saying I need to do, as you like to say, dig deep into the bag and all the stuff.
But the 2 things he was good at, defense and rebounding, and that got him to be a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's proof. that it works.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think like some people would say the argument, oh, Derek Lively's 7'1", but there's plenty of 7-foot people who don't get a chance in the NBA because they're not ultra specific. I think like one of the most overlooked players in the NBA who played in the finals would be TJ McCollum, right? And he has a skill set that can't be denied because it's his work ethic and it's his mindset too that allows him to compete at that level. And I just think that's awesome there. Let me ask you this, Scotty, and we're getting close to the end. What would you tell a player who's considering joining this program? Let's say one of your teammates who's on the fence, who's been struggling with some of the same things that you used to struggle with. What would you tell them before getting started with a program like this?
So before I'm going to answer that question, I just want to say with the lessons you've taught and everything, it's gotten me like ahead of like my teammates. Like you say in the call, do you know anyone else that's doing this stuff? Like it's very beneficial. And then so to answer the
It
question,
is a little bit like a cheat code. Like I see, now that like I have this different perspective, it's like to use one of your words. Sorry, go ahead.
and then so to answer the question, I would say like look at it in the grand scheme of things. Like look at the big picture. Even though it's only 2 calls a week for just an hour, you can take those calls and implement them into your life. I never thought of like, oh, it's just an hour. We're just going to talk about stuff during the call. But like I've used it in my everyday life. Think about how much beneficial it would be. Like you should do it, because if you don't, you're going to have a sigh of regret. Like, oh, wish I could have done that. Like, where would my mindset be from here and starting like up to here, and the performance on the court? Basically that.
And for you, Scotty, like before you touch on that, Danny, what made this program different than some of the things that you tried in the past, whether it be coaching or training?
So like my dad tried to tell me you gotta like eat even though when you're not hungry. And so like you've broken down, oh, it just calories taken in minus calories taken out is what you get on a daily basis. You don't have to like just say, oh, you need to eat more. You take it down more simply, like at a simpler level.
So the message that your dad is saying or your mom is saying, it's delivered differently and it's received differently. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying like it's much more simple. It's straight to the point. Like if you're gonna do this, here's what you gotta do. Here are the steps.
And Danny, I'd love for you to touch on that. What made this program different than some of the other things that you've invested in the past? Because I know this isn't the first thing you've tried to be able to help Scotty with his mindset.
We've never done anything like this. I mean, he trains multiple times a week, and we've been fortunate to have some incredible trainers, but that's all kind of on the court. And to have something where he can tap into off the court that is really, I never even thought was possible. Like we started this call with, where you're way across the country from us, and he's tuning in every week, and I can see the tangible benefits of when he steps on the court, from these concepts they're carried over into his training. Like you ask any one of his trainers now, right? He's progressing at a rate that, right, they can't believe it. This is more of a testament to you. This is not really about Scott, or I hope it's not coming across that way. This is the excitement we have is for going blindly into this program. And, when you do something where you're truly grateful that like something has worked out so well, like, yeah, we're genuinely excited about it. You should be, what I mean? We're seeing the benefits. So that's very cool. And as a player's perspective and from a parent, you stress out about everything. You want the best for your kid, and you want to be in the best situation. And this is 1000% made the road much clearer for, I know there'll be bumps along the way. Like none of these basketball teams are ever perfect, as you've spoken about in your own career. And one more thing, the transparency, which, you've talked about in your own career, in your own background, and there's no hiding of anything, and your knowledge and what you've been exposed to, like that's what makes this what it is.
And then it's like everyone on the call, like everyone's transparent, like everyone talks about this, not the same things, but like when ideas are brought up, everyone can chime in, like it's all like put together. Like there's no such thing as like, oh, you can do this, and then the other person's like, oh, I don't know about that. Like everyone has something to say. Like everyone can chime in into the idea.
I'd like to touch on that, Scotty, because I think that is an important point, where there's this shared sense of community amongst the kids. I'll go back and I'll watch the calls, right? And I see like a kid pop on and say, hey, I'm going to be 25 minutes late tomorrow. I have a practice, right? And that's common amongst all the kids in your program. And that is the kind of environment that I want my kid to be a part of. You're going to be 5 minutes late. You tell whoever you're going to be. I'm seeing that from over and over and over. There were probably 5 messages for the call tonight. Hey, I'm going to be 20 minutes late. I got to work out, or I can't be it tonight. Sorry. So it's just this sense of accountability to bring the conversation full circle, that like, whether it's on the court, at home, in school, like that's, as a parent, that's what you love to see.
For example, in school, or like when I'm texting my trainer, like what days work, I'm advocating for myself. I'm showing, like, say, can I get some points back on this? Like, I missed something. Why would you like me to turn it in or something? Instead of just hiding away, you go advocate, like saying, what time was it this week? I know I have this on this day, but this day works. Like, that's contributed to my life in like a really specific,
Positive way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've just matured tremendously from your time in the program. And I think that what you're seeing is the benefits of that, because like you all have been saying throughout this entire interview, it's not just on the court, it's off the court. And these are seeds that are planted now that are going to reap a harvest in the future. Like when you're in college, Scotty, you're no longer going to be swayed by your teammates doing this and your teammates doing that and friends going out to parties and all that stuff. This is really going to set you up for success for the long run, which I love.
Let me just cut in for 1 second, just to that exact point. Last Friday night, he comes home. It was a homecoming game. All the 8th grade kids were all going, and football game, hanging out. There was something going on after, and he had an 8 o'clock workout the next morning. And he got home and he said to me, "Yeah, they were all going to hang out, but I got an 8 o'clock workout tomorrow morning." So and that's, I don't know, you see that as a parent, and you're grateful that like this is being drilled in, not so much for the workout, but the accountability that like, hey, if I want to get good at something, whether it's basketball, whatever it is, there's choices and sacrifices, right? And that's the life concept that we're talking about. So
Definitely.
And even in the calendar, the buffers, you don't realize how much free time you have in a day. Like, that shows, like, you still want to go work out at 8 in the morning. Like, you still can show that you can do other stuff. Like, there's still openings.
Yes.
Like, that meant a lot to me last night and when I made my calendar.
Yeah. Being great is a sacrifice, but it doesn't mean that your whole life is taken away, right? It doesn't mean you can't have fun still, which is super important. And I think for you as a parent, Danny, you want to see your kid be able to still be a kid.
100%. A, be a kid, B, do other things besides basketball. I think at one point, we were talking about his other sport is golf, and, he was going to have a little time away from basketball. That's amazing. That's what they need.
Like, even on the calendar, I put like maybe like once in a golf round.
But I hope our genuine excitement came across. I know we got to wrap it up in a second here, but and we're jumping around a little bit, but we could talk for hours. I made a couple of notes, and there's many topics we didn't get to, so, or pillars, or
Definitely. No, we'll for sure have to record a part 2. I think, Scotty, will give it like a month or so and just see you stack up some more wins, especially as you start the new season. I think I'd love that. But I do want to finish off with this one right here. What would you all tell somebody who's on the fence about joining?
Want me to start?
Sure. Speak to the parent.
I mean, speaking from a parent's perspective, you make decisions based on, there's always what's best for my kid and how can this help them. But let's be real, you're talking about a financial decision also. And so when you think about amortizing the cost of this versus daily work, or 3 times a week workouts or whatever, that was what I thought about when I signed up. I'm like, we spend so much money on workouts, on training, on nutrition, on this, that if you break this down, the value that you're getting from this, from a financial perspective, it's a no-brainer. And that was a concern of mine at first. I was like, well, it's but now looking back, I'm like, the value from that has just been, there's no way to quantify it, the value that we've gotten from this. So anyone that's on the fence, I'll go back to what I said earlier in one of your points. You think you know everything as a parent. I know what's best for my kid. He knows what's best. I know the way this team is working. You know what? I have a whole new perspective on how, what's best for him, what's the best situation. And I would never, as much as I've played basketball my whole life, have had that perspective. And that I'm truly grateful for.
And I would say for people like on the verge of joining, you got to think about, it's only 2 times a week. Like, that during that hour, you're getting 1% better. Like, there's progress shown. From the beginning, it's stacked up, like, every single time. Like, I've stacked days from it. Like, I would say, even though you think about it, not even that much time, it really it expands. Like, it blows up like a bubble. Like, it shows. It starts here, and then it comes all the way out to here.
It's been a short time, but it's truly exponential growth. I think is a great way to summarize it.
Gentlemen, just thank you so much tremendously. You both have been a pleasure to work with. Your engagement in the community, in the group, on the calls has been amazing. Scotty, I have to tell you not to answer sometimes because you get so excited to answer questions on the call. Thank you both for your time. Thank you for your trust, first and foremost. And I look forward to helping you grow the rest of the way.
It's a pleasure, man. It's at least we could be. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much.
Great talking.
All right.
Okay. We'll see you soon.
Perfect.